Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Prabjot Koseni and you're watching Dating with Prabjot. So today is 30th of October. So this is both Halloween's Eve and Eid Diwali Eve, so Chote Diwali, which is why it's going to be very noisy today and you'll have to bear with me because all the fireworks and noises from outside, everything. So, but yeah, it was very important for me to film this video today because I've already delayed my Halloween content so much. Actually, I was filming a reading vlog. I started filming a reading vlog. I filmed it twice. One back in the end of September, and next in the begin another clip in the beginning of October. But then exams came. Then I got lazy. Then I got tired. Then I got sad, and I stopped filming the reading vlog. And I did not finish the books which I intended to, yeah. And so that vlog will not be out yet, but I will try to finish it and bring it out by November, December, anytime this year. But I want to bring it out because I cannot let another book uh, reading vlog fail. So anyways, I have to post something for Halloween, so I decided to just post a complete book recommendations video. So not just book recommendations, but a podcast, some horror stories too, because this is Halloween and you deserve all the horror um, media, books, stories, everything that you can have from the internet. And again, I do apologize for the kids screaming in the background. Yeah. So, anyways, this is the intro. Let's get started. So first, I will start with a horror podcast recommendation. So my favorite one is on Spotify is Ghost Stories. So it is, I don't remember the production name. I kind of forgot. I'm sorry, but it is narrated by Alex Murden. I guess that's what his name was. I don't know, but I will link the podcast in the description. So it is titled Ghost Stories. Okay, so Parcast. So, yeah, that was the name of the production, Parcast. So that was and the name of the podcast is Ghost Stories, and it has stories from all over the world. You've got H.P. Lovecraft, you've got Edith Nesbit, Edith Wharton, and you've got folklores, you've got urban legends, probably urban legends. I'm not sure if they're in the written form, then yes, or if these little stories inspired some urban legends, then also you can find it there. And you have Edgar Allan Poe as well. So you have Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven poem in the form of a story in that um podcast, and it was really fun to watch. I mean, listen to. I'm sorry, I'm such a mess today, but anyways, it's okay to be a little chaotic at times, right? So it is very fun to listen, and podcasts are the way to go if you want to get into reading audiobooks and podcasts, because sometimes you're too busy to just sit down and read, but when you're walking to work or to school, university, or you're doing some chores, anything, so when you can just insert AirPods in your ears and listen to music. So instead of listening to music, you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to horror stories and get the creeps, because trust me, just try it once, it is so good. I used to listen to that podcast last year and I was addicted. It was my top podcast for the year on Spotify, and I used to listen to it 24/7. And I just discovered so many amazing new stories and so many amazing authors, the classic authors of horror. So yeah, it is a very fun podcast. I highly recommend listening to it if you are a hardcore horror fan, because I don't think it is that suitable for beginners, because again, that you can decide for yourself, because every episode has trigger warnings. And let me tell you, those trigger warnings are to be taken very seriously because more often than not, they are actually quite triggering. I mean, I I usually take the trigger warnings lightly because I'm not really triggered that much. But when they meant gore, they meant actual, graphic, scary, um, disgusting gore. You know. Okay, but those stories was so amazing, and the narrator did such a fantastic job. It was the best podcast of my life, and I am thinking about binging it again. So yeah, it's pretty cool. You must check it out. So next we come to some novel recommendations. I have tons of them in terms of horror, and if you are a beginner into the genre, then I have many for you. If you are a beginner or of a young age, or you do not really prefer, those age restrictions when it comes to books, so you are like, as an adult you are comfortable in reading children's books, then I highly recommend Goosebumps, because they're not exactly horror, means not in the chilling scary kind of way, but they, bring inanimate objects to life, and then they create such a gripping plot with the stories. So Goosebumps is a pretty good start in horror. R.L. Stein, he's great, he's perfect when it comes to it. But as a beginner, that's what I recommend. Another novel that I would recommend to you as a beginner in the horror genre would be The Doll Graveyard. And still remember that I had read it back in 8th grade when I was 13, and I finished it in 2 or 3 days because it was so gripping, so engaging, and it was actually quite fun. The plot, the writing, the story setting, everything was perfect. It was perfect. So yeah, that is The Doll Graveyard is what I recommend. And if we are talking about Goosebumps stories, the ones which I read were Horrors of the Black Rain, and some of the some books from the Horrorland series like Heads You Lose, and there was another one I'm kind of forgetting. It was ages ago when I read those, when I was, what, 10 or 11 years old. So yeah, those are some good starts to the horror genre. And then if you want to advance a little, and you want to get to that level where you like horror but not too much horror, and something light in language, but still engaging, and still something of your age which you can feel, so I have a few recommendations for that as well. One is The Dream Haunters. I am reading this right now, and it is so engaging, so thrilling, and it is perfect for Halloween because it has witches, it has Halloween setting, it has some spiritual, paranormal activities going on, and it is more character driven too, plot driven and character driven. So there's a lot of introspection for the character as well, and it is actually a pretty good read. I want to finish it. I'm not just getting the time to read it, because when I start it I am unable to put it down. So more often than not I am just sleeping with my phone by my side because I got too tired and I fell asleep, but I was reading the book and I couldn't put it down, so I didn't realize when I fell asleep. But that was not the book, that was me. That was me being tired, my body being like, you need to stop, you need to rest now. So it would just shut down automatically without listening to me. But yeah, it is a very good book if you want to read that. Another recommendation is A Witchy Situation. It is a small town romance between a witch girl and that boy. I think he's a werewolf or not. I don't recall actually. I am supposed to read that book. I was supposed to read that for my reading vlog, and but again, as I told you, I didn't get much time. So that book, A Witchy Situation, it is very light-hearted, set in autumn during the Halloween in a small town. So it is like a perfect Hallmark movie, a perfect Halloween Hallmark movie, but just 1,000 times better in terms of characters, writing, and plot. So yeah, that is another book which you should really pick up. And the third one is Sword of Nightmare. Yeah, this one also released just now. It is the first book in the series, and it is more of a high fantasy paranormal kind of novel where a lot is happening and it is very plot driven, and well, you have a lot going on. So it is more if you are inclined to fantasy as well. So in terms of mindsets, when you want to read, what you want to read, and what you're expecting from the book. So yeah, that is it. I wish I could recommend more, but I need to keep this video to a plausible length so that everybody gets to enjoy these recommendations without getting too much. But I will read all these three books in my reading blog, and in that I will talk about them in detail. So these are the ones which released this year only, and I believe all three of them are available on Kindle Unlimited, but you must check that. And yeah, if you want to get into indie horror books, indie means self-published, so you can try these. They are definitely worth it. Some other ones are, there's this book which released in August, Ghost Stories from Around the World. I'm kind of forgetting the title, it was a long one, but I'll just put it up on the screen. And it is, well, a collection of ghost stories from all over the world. So that is something which you should definitely go for. But that comes into the ghost story section. So we've covered this now, so I'll cover the other story collections in the next section of the video. And yeah, these are the books which I recommend if you are a beginner or a mid-level in horror. And if you want to advance yourself and you want to read some classic horror, then there are tons of recommendations for you. You've got Bram Stoker's Dracula, then you have Carmilla, which was probably the first vampire story in classic literature ever recorded. I mean, vampires have existed in folklore in various different forms, but when you're talking about recorded literature, like a complete novel, it's actually a novella, Carmilla. I kind of forgot the name of the author. Yeah, you can, I think, tell by now that I'm not prepared for this video. I'm just spontaneously giving recommendations because that feels more natural and authentic to me. These, um, but I do hope I don't forget any good books in my spontaneity, right? But yeah, horror is a genre which I'm very passionate about, which I really enjoy. So I feel that I should be giving unscripted recommendations on horror like this. So that's what you're getting, unfiltered, unscripted recommendations. So that's, I covered Dracula, I covered Carmilla. These are vampire literature. These stories, sorry. Yeah, another one is Frankenstein. Of course, Dracula and Frankenstein are the base foundation of Halloween. So these are some classics which you should read. Then you can read Edgar Allan Poe's works. You can read H.P. Lovecraft. You can read Edith Wharton, Edith Nesbit. These are some pretty fantastic horror classic authors. So this, you should only get to classics when you have really advanced in literature, or you are really really passionate about it, because the classics, they will kill a person in a second, but then stretch the moment leading up to it for like even 10 or 12 pages or a few chapters before the final plot. So classics have a very different writing style as compared to the modern times. So of course you cannot expect it to sound the way it should in these times, because there will be vocabulary which you don't use anymore, or which means something else now. And yeah, there are a lot of factors which go into reading. So yeah, I always recommend classics only when you have highly advanced your level in reading and literature, because it requires a lot of patience and everything. So yeah, I think these are the books that I will recommend. These are the complete novels which I'll be recommending. So I'll move to some short story collections which you can check out, which will probably have your favorite authors and horror stories. And also, I just recall the most important piece of literature which you should read on Halloween. That is The Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. It is a classic, but I will recommend it to everyone because it is very short, it is very humorous and light-hearted, and a very brilliant piece of work. And you can never go wrong with Oscar Wilde's works. And it is also perfect for Halloween because Halloween is not just about being scared by ghosts, but actually, you know, fighting them and um, making humor out of the situation, because the origins of Halloween trace back to um, events and activities that would ward off the evil instead of inviting the evil. So, a humorous story where the ghost is actually the victim and then gets some, you know, repentance, is something you should definitely check out, because yeah, I read it last year on Halloween and it was pretty amazing. This next section of the video, I will be presenting some horror anthologies which have stories that I love and I'm really good to read them, and I can blindly trust them and recommend it to other horror lovers as well. So first is 50 greatest horror stories. So these are, as the title suggests, 50 horror stories, the greatest of all times. So these have stories from H.P. Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, Edith Wharton, Edith Nesbit, and all the pioneers of the horror genre of the classic era. So these are some of these stories have been retold in the podcast which I recommended earlier, but I should like to read them um, in their original form as well. So this is one anthology which I'm really eager to have, and the other one is the Skin Bonds or the Omnibus. It has some stories of Ruskin Bond and some stories of other classic authors. So it is a perfect collection of all horror stories. So, and this is another anthology which I'm really eager to read. And the next one is Ghosts of the Silent Hills, and this is by Fingerprint Classics. This is something that really piqued my interest since it suggests that it is inspired by true events, so I should like to read them. And a similar one, not exactly similar, but it has a similar title, Ghosts of the Silent Past. I kind of forgot the name of the anthology, but it is on the screen so you can see it. And if you're looking for some Indian horror stories, then these three actually, including the Skin Bones Omnibus, these three anthologies are something I would recommend very much. And if you are again trying to get into some classics, then you can read H.P. Lovecraft's horror stories. So I am not really sure how to pronounce this creature's name, but it is very famous, and it is very famous work by Lovecraft, and he was again a pioneer of the horror genre, and he has created his own subgenre of horror. So it is Lovecraftian horror, and yeah, I would highly recommend you check that out. It usually involves mythical or fictional creatures as a key element of horror. So these are some that I highly recommend, and if you read them or if you have read them, then you must let me know in the comments, because I would love to have a discussion about these. Now, in the last section of this video, I will be recommending some of my own works. Not exactly some, but these are my only published horror works which are available to be read online for free, by the way. So I'll link them in the description and you can check them out. So the first one is a short story titled The Presence, and some of you, I believe, might have read it because it was for the writing competition where we required public votes as well. So I shared it um, as much as I could at that time, and people loved it. People still love reading it. When I see them reading it and their reactions, it always amuses me. And so that is also set sometime before Halloween, so you can read that story. I'll link it in the description. Again, it is free to read. And the second one is a Wattpad book titled Very Short Horror Stories. So it has two sentence horror stories, one for each day of the spooky month. So 31 two sentence horror stories for the 31 days of October. Since I'm recording this on 30th October and you'll probably be watching it on or after 31st October, that is Halloween. So you will have all the 31 stories to binge um, together, and all of them are my own creations, not inspired by the one circulating in the on the internet. And I hope you like them, the originality and the um, thought put behind those. So these are some of my horror works. I shall try to bring out more in the future, but its future is unpredictable. So let's see when my next horror work will be out. Hopefully by next Halloween I shall have some more recommendations and some of my own works for you. So this is all for now. I really hope you enjoyed this video. This one is quite long, but this is horror and it is one of my favorite genres, so of course it had to be that long. So I do hope you enjoyed me yapping about horror for 20 minutes straight. And if you read any of my recommendations, then please do let me know. I really love when people ask me about the recommendations or people love something I recommend. So I shall be looking forward to your feedback. And thank you so much for watching. Happy spooky month and happy reading.